Hello, everyone, and this is not a highlights video, but we're going to go ahead and start this mini interview series that we're doing for this year's online version of After School Special, our Juried Alumni Art Exhibition. We have Andy Coughlan here. Hi, Andy. So you did some drawings this year, which is a little bit different for you. I know usually you do paintings and work with color. So my first question is really, do you usually do any kind of drawings for the preliminary work for your paintings, or was this like kind of something a little bit different for you? Just
well, it's
monochrome and
yes and no is the answer to that. Yeah, I do sketches, but I do a lot of really quick drawings. Most of my work is in the last few years has been built around landscapes or stuff like that, and it's abstract. So I look at things, I find shapes, I find lines, and so I'll pull a line from this or a line from that, and so it's a lot of free drawing. And what happened with these pieces is it's basically the same principle. One of the things, and all of these things actually are brand new. These started with the lockdown.
Yeah.
And so I was at home. I didn't want to go to the art studio because there's people there. I didn't want to. So I have a really limited space. But the good news is I also started walking because I could get and stuff like that. So I've been walking about 5 miles a day. So as I walk.
Oh, that's so great.
Another project I've been working on is I take photos of cracks in the road and found drawings. I keep thinking that one day I'm going to put all these together as these found drawings and stuff like that. So
really cool.
Basically the idea with this is like, okay, well, I'm here. I don't really want to break out all the paint or anything like that. I'll just practice pencil strokes, like lighter. And so I drew some of those on, and I drew on those ideas of finding things. And then as it got on, I started being kind of really excited to the point, and I actually thought about this, if you don't mind, I want to show you something.
Go for it.
The most recent one, or one of the most recent ones I've done is I was out the other day, and the road was drying and the cracks in the road. And so as the road changes, so even though it's still abstract, this is the most realistic drawing that I've done. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
And so it's taking the same principles that I've had. But this one actually really is legitimately a crack in the road with the different areas that are drying.
Yeah, and I love how kind of cellular and biological that looks. It looks like we're looking at plant cells or something.
Yeah, and so so then if you compare that to something like an earlier one like that, this is a more abstracted form of that. But the last couple of days I've been doing them that have just been legitimately. This is one I'm in the middle of working on. It's another crack.
Yeah, this is exciting because these are different shapes than what I see from you. So that's pretty cool.
So it's sort of, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like I'm coming back around. I take these shapes and take these shapes normally, and then I would abstract them and make paintings out of them. But as I've started doing that, I'm actually going back to like, I'll just sort of, they're still abstracts and they're still not, lifelike, but sort of playing with the idea. So this has been a wonderful sort of experience.
I think it's been really interesting experience for a lot of people, especially creative people who are, usually making on a regular basis, and how it's kind of affecting their work or affecting the amount of work that they're doing, which kind of leads me into my second question. Would you say that your reliance on creating or your creativity has spiked during this time, or?
Yes, in a way. Well, certainly with the drawings, obviously, because I do a lot of writing normally. I've found that I actually haven't written a blog in a couple of weeks. I do, normally I'm writing a lot, but because I don't have the time. I think you know me well. I'm always working.
You're busy bee.
I'm writing that, and so this not having, I've almost had more time. It's like even with the walk, I normally don't have time to walk honestly, I'm not getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go walk.
Exactly. I used to get up at 5:30 and do a little bit of writing and walk my dog, and now it's like I wake up at 7 and I make a coffee and I sit at my desk.
So I've enjoyed having the time. And actually, one of these things about these is because, when people look at the work, they see the tiny little things. Even though these are 8x10s, these things can take me 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
That I don't normally have that kind of time, and so I'm sort of stuck at home, and I'm like, I'll just sit and start drawing, and next thing you know, I've killed an evening. So it's kind of nice, So in that way, it's, even though the creativity I think is sort of spiked, it's actually much more relaxing for me because I'm not like, oh my God, there's a show coming up or something, and I've got to get this thing finished this week. No, I have the time to work on some things.
Interesting. Okay, so another question I have. How do you think this year is going to affect other artists or the art world? Do you think that it's kind of a two-parter? Like, do you think that there's going to be an increase in these sort of more intimate, but more in quantity of pieces like this as it feels like we're dealing with multiple issues all at once right now and multiple feelings. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, it's I've talked to some other people who are like, oh, I'm depressed, I don't want to make art,
Yeah.
So it's each person, but of course, I don't know, I'm not sure that this is really any different than normal. We're in different circumstances, but at the end of the day, as an artist, I think it's like I use my creativity, whatever, writing or visual arts or something, to try and make sense, or I don't know, basically just get by.
Yeah.
It's the thing that gets me by.
Yeah.
So it's just a different. I don't know. I'm not a big social person. I've sort of enjoyed not having to go out.
I've definitely enjoyed that. I'm kind of it's weird because I can be outroverted, but I'm also very much an introvert. I like being in my own space. Sometimes it's almost like a necessity for me to just shut myself off from other people.
Right.
So it's interesting because I feel like the same way. In ways I've been thriving, but in other ways it's kind of like, I wish I could at least go to a bookstore.
I miss going to a museum and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's one of the good things is obviously, I'm very lucky I get to travel a little bit. So I go, my kids live in New York, so I'm constantly going to big exhibitions and stuff. I like that. But I like that museums are releasing sort of online virtual things you can look at. And galleries are trying to find ways to connect, which I think even when this is all over, right, that's still a value. There's maybe an exhibition in London that I can't get to see. Well, I think they're going to, after the exhibition, they may, like say next year there's an exhibition, I don't get to see it, it's really good. Or for example, right now in London, there's a Aubrey Beardsley exhibition. I'm a big Beardsley fan, he's from my hometown. And so I'm not going to get to see that. But they've recorded it, and I think later on, they'll probably make it available. And I think that's a chance for us to be able to see some, I think they're going to start forced to use the technology to put this out there. Because I understand that they don't want to lose the revenue for people going to see the exhibition, but there's nothing wrong with, like, 2 years after that exhibition, making that available for us. So I think we may get even greater access to some things that we don't see. We'll see how it works.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just completely interesting times. Okay, and then one of my last questions is, do you see yourself trying out any other new mediums, or kind of using this time as a time to experiment even further with your work?
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, I use computers all the time and digital. I use photography a lot anyway, and I photograph. So I do feel like I'm always using different sort of media. One of the things about these drawings is what's made me, I'd like to do a couple, again, bearing in mind these are 8x10s and they take me forever. I'd like to do one that's like this big.
Yeah.
It would probably take me 2 or 3 days. And then I'd like to think about transferring some of these concepts to paint or to start. I thought about using colored pencils, but I kind of like the idea right now still of the shading, but that may be that I start working in little areas. And one of the things about these too is what makes me lucky is I have OCD. So this is great to be able to sit there and go, it's just for hours. I find it so relaxing. Like sometimes I can be like, oh, everything's going crazy, and I just go sit down.
Right.
And so
it's been interesting, I would say, for me as well. I don't think I would ever consider myself to be an artist, but I think definitely a creative person. And I knit, so that's something that's very tedious, very meditative. So yeah, I think it's going to be really interesting to hear how each person has been dealing with this differently. Or, like you said, some people are kind of burnt out. I know for the past 2 weeks, I kind of have the same thing where you have, where I have like 3 things that I enjoy doing. And I spend maybe 2 months on one topic, and then I get kind of like inspired by this other media. So then I move to that. And then it's just like in constant rotation.
And that plays into my whole sort of theory on being an artist. It's like, if I'm not, and I've done times when I've gone 6 months without drawing or just dabbling in it because I'm in the middle of writing all this stuff. But the way I look at it, it's like I don't ever sort of say, well, I'm not drawing right now, therefore I'm not being my true artist self, right? Because I happen to be writing a play. But so I look at it as like being an artist to me is a state of being. So everything I do as an artist. So I can, when I stop drawing for a bit, I'll probably stop drawing for a couple of weeks while I do some writing, because now I can already feel I'm at the point, it's like, I got some things I want to write. Right? Yeah. But I put off for that. So, and that just, again, it keeps it fresh. And then I'll get to a point where it's like, I really want to get back to the drawing. And then I come in with some sort of fresh, renewed vigor. I just, the only thing for me is I can't sort of do nothing. Yeah. Very hard time with that.
I feel that. Well, I'm definitely interested to see where you kind of keep going with these, because I think it is, I think I enjoy your work on a regular basis, but this is, obviously something a little bit different. And I like those recent ones that you've done that are kind of more realistic, because we're getting some different, like the way that your brain works, where you usually see shapes, but now we're getting them in a different perspective. So
yeah, it's kind of interesting. And surprisingly, they take even longer.
Yeah.
It's even longer to do them because you have to, I mean, like this one here, it's like, what I like is it's impossible to keep, I don't know if you can see, it's impossible to keep the same pressure. And also part of it is, with the texture as well. So,
what kind of pencils are you using?
Good ones. I got a HB, 2B, and 4B artist pencil, like 2 packs of them. In fact, the ones I've got now are down to about this big.
Oh, wow.
I haven't opened the new pack yet. I was smart right at the beginning, because they said, well, you won't be able to buy it.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, I got 2 packs of Bristol this size and 2 packs on the 16 by 20 or 11 by 17. Whatever it is, I don't know. Bigger than that. These are 11 by 14. But bigger than that, 16 by 20s, because that's normally what I work on, and they're a good size to be able to work at home. And so we'll see. But so I got some work in done. It's fun.
Good. All right. Well, like again, it was nice chatting with you.
Nice chatting with you, and will you take care? And when this is ready, I'll share it. All right. Thank you so much. You have fun. Bye.
Bye.